Great. This is Dan Meyer with RCR Wireless News at the Telecom Exchange event. I'm here with Hunter Newby. He's with Allied Fiber. Hunter, thanks for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan.
Great. Well, maybe I guess for those who don't know who you guys are, maybe just a little background on the company, just in case those who don't know your extensive background in the fiber space.
Allied Fiber essentially is a network neutral infrastructure provider. So we're building a combination of dark fiber and neutral colo facilities using railroad rights of way predominantly throughout the United States to link the submarine cable landing stations, the four corners,
Yep.
but also providing access along the route through physical handholds and splice points. In Florida, they're every 5,000 feet, and everything north of Jacksonville every 3,000 feet. And that's for the inclusion of things like cell towers for wireless backhaul, schools, hospitals, data centers, and whatnot. Yeah. So the dark fiber splicing through the handholds, that meets our long-haul superstructure and our colo facilities every 60 miles that are used initially for amplification and regeneration, and they essentially double as carrier-neutral meet-me rooms, and that's where the local network operators can place their equipment and cross-connect to the global infrastructure, if you will.
And obviously, looking at the map that you guys have, your coverage area, it's pretty much a ring around the whole United States. You guys pretty much have a nice looking a map set up there.
It's very specific.
Yeah.
It's, again, linking the submarine cable landing points, so the transatlantic north, down in Florida and South Florida for the Caribbean LATAM cables, and then the Seattle area, Portland area for the North Pacific cables, and then down near LA, San Luis Obispo, Grover Beach for the Southern Pacific cables. It's going to take a lot of time, but we've got the rights of way picked out. We have a very simple model. It's a real estate model. It's very replicable and very scalable.
Now, obviously, you talked a little bit about the wireless industry and how it plays in the fiber space. Towers are going up all over the place. More and more need for fiber at these towers. The increase in data usage. Obviously, you have to have the backhaul capabilities there. What kind of impact are you seeing from the wireless industry on your business model?
Wireless backhaul for dark fiber needs for wireless backhaul are driving our business in the short haul part of our business. Okay. So we look at subsea interconnect as the long haul component, and then those midpoint splices. We did a build in Middle Georgia a couple years ago with one of our customers. It was 100% driven by wireless backhaul. So there are towers without any fiber. There's lots of them. Yeah. They need fiber. Yeah. And we act as the physical distribution mechanism, the sort of center line, yep. And then the laterals get built from the towers to us. Mm-hmm. Think of it that way. Yep. And then they use us to get between the major carrier hotels and peering points.
Yeah, interesting. Now, also with small cells coming on a lot for wireless carriers, it seems like the big opportunity, there's always a challenge when it comes to small cells of having power and backhaul at all those sites. Sure. And there's projections of hundreds of thousands of these things being deployed out there. What kind of impact and what do you guys see, I guess, coming from when it comes to small cells being deployed for wireless networks? Do you see that as a big opportunity for you guys, or is that kind of outside, maybe a little outside your realm?
Small cells are a huge opportunity for us because it's exponentially compounding the problem, which is that there isn't enough fiber to the existing towers. So the way that the FCC and some others in the wireless community want to deal with the spectrum allocation issue and burdening the spectrum with the backhaul, the way they want to deal with it is to add more towers and more antennas, basically, through small cell, which just exacerbates the problem that there's not enough glass to the existing towers and antennas. So again, you're going to need a superstructure of high count dark fiber and a company with a business model that treats it as neutral real estate with splice points and colos, such that all the aggregation networks that touch all those small cell points can feed back into a larger core. And without it, how is anyone going to build fiber to all those points? Incrementally, 1 mile at a time. I mean, how long is that going to take? Like forever? A decade, 2 decades? And who's going to pay for that? I mean, the local guys that are doing the backhaul networks can't also afford to secure the rights of way for the national build. Sure. So at some point, you're bringing back so much capacity on your own network that you're going to have to hand over to a lit service provider, and that's where your model breaks. Because you don't have the money to pay for that. You need to get it all the way to a peering point and peer it off as much as possible to the end user networks, let's call them, or the content networks, or whoever you're trying to exchange traffic with, or in the case of the mobile operators, back to the MSCs. But there's a lot of that build in America that's still a bridge too far. Yeah. It's a 10-mile build or something that's outside of the window that they can build and get their return on capital in the time frame that their investors want. Yeah. So we make the country smaller in that sense.
Yeah, obviously that cost structure is a big part of this whole build out. For the carriers, for everybody, that's always that part that they always, they don't talk about, that they're skimping there, but that's always an issue that they're always trying to make sure they're watching the bottom line. So it's important to have someone who can provide that part.
And we're an aggregation play. We're an economies of scale play at the physical layer. Our model works because we're in the colo business long term. The fiber is a means to an end. But we secure the right of way, we buy the duct, we place the cable, and then we break bulk the high count cable into pairs for everyone. And then we lease racks in our colos that are modular buildings. And as they fill up, we add another mod, and then we add another mod. It's really easy. Scales, you don't have to build 100,000 square foot facilities everywhere. We start with 1,100 square feet, we see how it goes. One city, one location might have a lot more local aggregation than the next, so we might be adding a module to that location sooner than we would the next. But that's the flexibility of the model that we've created. And it alleviates the burden of each individual local network operator of having to build all this infrastructure on their own. They only need one rack and a couple of pairs of fibers and light up a node and get a bunch of cross connects. They don't need a building and land and rights of way and all that sort of thing.
I mean, are you guys being at all challenged by this incessant demand for data services? I mean, obviously it seems like, as soon as somebody puts any sort of tower or equipment in, a year later have to go back in and update it. Obviously scalability is a big part of being able to support those data services that are growing. Is that challenging at all to you guys? Or you guys
that's driving our business?
That's what you guys need.
Yeah, that's driving the physical layer. Yeah, it's huge. I mean, it's awesome. I read every day. Yep, I get it. Charts are going crazy. I see the projections. We're never going to hit those projections if you don't build the physical layer to support it. So we're moving as fast as we can to, first of all, educate the uneducated, deal with the people that are trying to, misinform because they have vested interest to protect, educate the capital markets about what this model is, prove it out, show that there's real demand from everything between subsea and little local mom and pops and enterprise non-carrier network operators, and that we're building a community, a physical layer community, a marketplace. Every 60 miles, we're distributing a meet me room every 60 miles through the United States. Okay.
I mean, is there any challenges for you guys at all at this point? I mean, obviously you guys are on the ground putting this stuff in. There's got to be some sort of holdups at times. I mean, what's preventing you guys from expanding quicker, I guess?
The normal business challenges and the burden that we carry, which is that we need to build a profitable business, whereas all other infrastructure in the United States is socialized and subsidized. And we actually have to get a return on our investment. So problem number one, I'm not getting bailed out by the government. This isn't like a highway or, utility thing or a railroad or airlines that, just get bailed out. We actually have to build it properly, and we have a model for that. Believe it or not, we have a model. It's a real estate model. We charge rent for racks. Network operators gladly pay it because the value that they get back in return is immeasurable to them. But it's something that has to be done incrementally, has to scale with demand. If someone said to me, here's $2 billion, build out the country, I couldn't take it. I couldn't spend it all and say, okay, it's all done. It's going to take years to build the country out. So you have to sort of temper people's enthusiasm and their sheer, desperation and say, be patient. It's like a lot of these people are redlining on the capacity on their backbones, and they're like, I hear what you're saying, but I can't afford to wait. So, well, you don't really have a choice. You're going to have to figure out something else, or, you're going to have to keep buying more lit services. And they're like, yeah, but that keeps, eating away at our margins, and how are we going to grow? And so you
guys are in a pretty good situation for the most part. Things are going okay for you guys.
No, things are going really well. I mean, we're right in the wheelhouse of where demand is. It's just, how do you raise the capital? How do you get the returns? How do you build the scale? How do you build the next segment? A lot of these segments that we're going to start building now, we just built Florida, 364 miles. That's probably the smallest segment we're ever going to build. Then they all become 400. Well, Jacksonville to Atlanta is about the same. But then once you get past that, 400, 500, 700, 1,000 miles, 1,300 miles, cost goes up.
I mean, the final question, are you guys finding any issues with just getting enough workforce out there to do this? Because obviously this is pretty labor-intensive work you guys are trying to do. No. Has that been not an issue at all with getting people?
There's a lot of labor. There's a lot of people that are very smart, a lot of skilled guys. We work with some of the best people, if not the best people in the industry at doing what we do, what they do. We outsource all this stuff. We work with Corning for the fiber. We work with Selection for the colo facilities. We work with High Power on the contracting and the build-out. We work with Emerson on the power systems. These people all know what they're doing. They're experts at it. So, that hasn't been an issue. The challenges are working with all of them and meeting the timelines and the demand, the customers in the next phase, and bringing all those pieces together. And, we're doing our best to make it work for everyone. I always like to say, how long is it supposed to take to do something right? As long as it takes. You don't want to cut any corners, So that's our biggest challenge.
Great. Well, Hunter, thanks so much for your time today. We appreciate it.
Yep.